One orphan boy is caught on the street and becomes the target of cruel experiments. Some mad scientists decide to make him a living weapon. He gets the name Subject Number 17, and for years, he is injected with cells from over 500 monsters until he no longer looks like something that could even be called human. Once his body is completely ruined and he looks like a failed experiment to the scientists, they decide he's only good for one thing now: to send him to the front lines as disposable meat. This experiment was started for this purpose from the very beginning. Anyway, when the gates of the demon realm burst open, monsters flooded the world. Only a small number awakened as hunters, and even fewer were strong enough to hold the line. Eventually, humanity realized they didn't have enough awakened, so they turned to something far darker. They started manufacturing chimera hunters, prisoners fused with monster cells and engineered in labs to fight monsters in their place. When Chimera number 17 finally arrives in the monster realm, something unexpected happens. He wipes out monsters stronger than S-rank threats. He cuts down beasts and destroys whole hordes of monsters, even at the price of ruining his body. Hunters watching from behind can't believe it. One chimera is doing the work of an entire army, but when the work is done, the hunters abandon him on purpose. Their orders are simple: do not bring Chimera number 17 back alive. Nothing of him remains except a single bone. However, that one bone suddenly floats into the air and begins regenerating his entire body until Chimera number 17 respawns. Except this time, he is a handsome young man with rock-solid abs. Still in shock from his insane revival, he wonders to himself if he really is a human once again. He figures that since those monster cells are still inside him, he probably doesn't count as fully human, especially with how easily he flexes those sharp talons like he's about to launch a fashion line for apex predators. No one's shown up from the lab to drag him back, so our boy assumes he's been ditched like a stingy ex. Then he notices the lab number that used to be on his arm is now gone, and that makes him wonder if he's finally managed to cut ties with the lab for good, since he's rocking a body hotter than hell itself. He guesses this might be the trait of an immortal type monster, the kind that can revive up to 3 times unless their core gets wrecked. But one thing still nags at him that the scientists used to swear up and down that human and immortal monster cells couldn't fuse. Yet here he is in full alpha mode, radiating peak form that makes Johnny Bravo look like background filler. Maybe whatever side effects he had were erased, since he recalls how his head always used to feel foggy and chained by some kind of mental spell. But now he feels free as he ever can be, so he figures maybe it's time to live like an actual human again, now that his days of being the obedient mutt known as number 17 are over. That name was just something slapped onto him at random anyway, and he tries to remember his real one, but suddenly gets pulled into a flashback where that one old scientist referred to him as a lunatic with a rough personality, but still told him to help people from now on. The old guy asked him to dedicate his life to saving 1,000 people, but back then, our boy, drowning in his edgy emo era, didn't even bother to reply. Snapping back to the present, he calls that advice pure trash and laughs off the ridiculous idea that some orphan born in the slums is supposed to help others. As he gazes at the sunset sky, abs shimmering like they've got their own lighting budget. He thinks about revenge for a moment, but lets the thought slide. After all, revenge needs a visible target, and it's been so long that his grudge feels more like a fading itch than anything real. And besides, there's no path back to the human world right now anyway. He figures he'll run into them someday and decides to shove the whole revenge thing for now and focus on what's ahead. Staring down at his majestic body, a divine glow conveniently covering his more delicate parts, he comes to a decision that he'll try to live like a proper human being from now on to make up for all the time that got stolen from him. As he strolls off, he realizes he should probably find something to wear and heads out on a mission for clothes. But then a weird thought pops up mid-walk that he can't even remember the last time he wore anything. He fires up his brain cells to figure out what material might work, but comes up blank. So he does what any lost barbarian would do and starts scanning the area, and soon enough, something catches his eye. Up ahead, he sees a bird-like monster's corpse and guesses that maybe it died in a turf war. Though there aren't any wounds to show for it, that leads him to think it must have been poison, which honestly works out great for him since it's in mint condition and is perfect for skinning. He morphs his arm into a giant blade like he's just reaching for for a butter knife, and recalls from the lab that it's better to start cutting from the belly and then move to the limbs. Chai-Long gets to work, but the moment he slices it open, some purple gas leaks out. He instantly clocks it as poison, but doesn't seem the least bit rattled and inhales it like perfume. The only thing that annoys him is the smell, since now he's going to have to wash the hide. After a while, he finishes skinning the overgrown turkey and figures it wasn't a half bad job for a first try. He then heads to the river to wash the hide, but when he pulls it out, he seems a bit disappointed as he notices it's gone stiff, even though it felt soft before, so he concludes that it might just be the monster at play here. Then, out of nowhere, a genius idea hits him like divine inspiration as he lays the hide flat and starts beating it up like it owes him money, mid-punch. He wonders if this is how people normally tan hides and hopes it'll work rather than destroy all his hard work. After some good old medieval therapy, the hide turns soft again, and he holds it up proudly, ducking behind the naked bird corpse for modesty. He begins making adjustments to the hide, but just then, a flame flickers to life on the monster's head. The bird's eyes snap open, clearly disturbed at the sight of someone ripping off its skin like wrapping paper. Chai-Long quickly punches some holes into the hide, slips into his makeshift gear, and ties a vine around his waist like it's runway ready. With that, he's suited up in his new look and honestly feels pretty good about the result. He spots some leftover poison on the inside part, but decides to let it be because it is too much hassle to clean. At that exact moment, the bird monster lets out an ear-piercing screech, which shocks Chai-Long, who genuinely thought it was dead. It thrashes around and even seems like it understands human speech, which throws Chai-Long off. He figures the monster must also be an immortal type since it wasn't breathing earlier. If this had happened before, he would have roasted it without a second thought, but now, seeing it weak and vulnerable, he figures that there's no need. Chai-Long just smiles and says the bird got lucky, wishing it a second chance at life before turning to leave. As he walks off, he casually adds that if fate's feeling extra spicy, maybe they'll meet again. A while later, he wanders into a cave, glancing around like he's house shopping. Without warning, a massive centipede jumps out and lands right in front of him, but Chai-Long doesn't even blink. The creature lashes out, but he's more concerned about whether the lighting here is good enough for a home. With one clean strike, he slices off the centipede's head like he's swatting a fly and turns away, mentally crossing this cave off the list. Next, he finds himself in a snowy mountain region where a yeti lies on the ground frozen in fear, probably having seen Chai-Long coming like a jump scare. Apparently, our boy ran fades with the yetis, but rejected this location too because food would be a nightmare to find. Then, he checks out a forest, but the mushrooms reek so badly it's like someone microwaved fish in an office break room, so that one's a no-go as well. He keeps exploring from a creepy lizard cave to a suspiciously cozy volcano, but nothing clicks. Finally, he arrives at the edge of a cliff and gazes out at a breathtaking view, and it stuns him that a place in the demon realm could look this beautiful. He decides to scout the area and casually jumps off the cliff, landing with a thud that would break someone else's spine. Chai-Long notices the water is crystal clear, and there's a solid fish population too. Some monster fish leap out trying to get a nibble, and he wonders if he could roast one up like a camping trip meal. Thinking deeper, he figures this is the perfect spot because it has a natural fish farm, clean air, flowers everywhere, so he makes his choice that he'll build his house here and decides to call it the Chai-Long Duan House. Meanwhile, in a distant part of the demon realm, the air sparks as a portal rips open and something shoots out, slamming into the ground with a thunderous crash. A robotic figure rises from the smoke, looks around, and wonders out loud if this really is the demon realm. He takes a moment to soak in the beauty of the place, really letting the fresh air and colorful flowers work their charm, and ends up deciding that this spot is pretty much perfect for building Chai-Long Duan's house. Starting off, he clears out the area with these vine-like extensions that sprout from his fingertips, slicing down every tree in sight with a single clean motion, and once the clearing is done, he uses those same vines to gather the fallen logs to stack them up as his primary building material. Right when things seem to be going smoothly, he notices that the ground looks a little too bumpy for his liking, so he pulls out the vines again and smooths everything out, taking care to remove any leftover tree stumps until the clearing finally looks clean enough to host a Pinterest-worthy cabin. As he sets the logs in place and plants the main pillars for the structure, he starts to notice how his body moves almost on instinct, and it gets him wondering if this is what people mean when they talk about free will, especially since it's the first time he's building something that actually belongs to him. He lays out the floor planks next and decides to try snail-type monster mucus in place of nails since that stuff hardens into something close to rock, and he figures it might even work as waterproofing, which honestly sounds like a win. When the main structure is finished, he gives it a personal touch by layering some silkworm cocoon threads over the roof, and that boosts his confidence that monsters probably won't come knocking anytime soon. It looks pretty cozy now and almost feels complete, but he pauses to think about what else a proper human house should have, then recalls how back at the lab they used to show videos of normal houses before the gates ever opened. Thinking it through, he realizes most people either had pets or grew something in their yards, and since dogs are not exactly a thing in the demon world, he figures the best option is to grow plants and make a garden. After spending some time brainstorming on what to grow, he suddenly hits a eureka moment and decides Mandragoras would be perfect, especially with a snowy mountain nearby that fits their habitat. As he hikes through the cold, snow-covered terrain, he remembers that Mandragoras usually grow in mana-rich soil, and the way the snow piles around him makes him think back to when he got kidnapped and sent to the lab. Ironically enough, he kind of sees that moment as a blessing now, because after becoming a chimera, he no longer had to worry about freezing to death or starving in miserable conditions. Eventually, he senses the high mana around him and figures he must be close, and sure enough, he finally spots the Mandragora roots. They look like sunfish with leafy heads and are known for being super sensitive to stress, often dying from even the tiniest change in their surroundings. He reasons that picking younger ones would be smarter since they might adapt better during the move, so he carefully selects 3, bracing himself for the screaming he knows they're famous for. But instead of the shrill cries he expects, he finds the first little guy sound asleep, snoring like a baby, and the other 2 he picks later are also peacefully snoozing and even sleep talking. That throws him off until he remembers that the whole Mandragora screaming thing was more of a lab-created nightmare caused by humans growing them in low mana environments filled with stress, and the screaming was mostly a reaction to being ripped out forcibly. He starts to wonder if the silence is just because they're in the demon realm now, but even so, it's weird that they're not trying to resist or run away. That is, unless they somehow recognize him as one of their own, which wouldn't be too surprising considering he's got Mandragora cells mixed into his body too. He gently tucks them into his waistband, feeling relieved that they're calm and unstressed, and begins to wonder if he could politely ask them later for a few root tendrils to brew tea, or maybe even use their fruit as a snack, though he quickly remembers that the fruit turns poisonous if picked forcibly, so he makes a mental note to wait and request it nicely when the timing feels right. Right around then, he picks up on the presence of some hunters nearby, and starts to question why anyone would bother climbing a perilous snowy mountain unless absolutely necessary, but decides to check them out anyway since he could use some gate stones from them. Meanwhile, one of the hunters is grumbling that they've been left to face danger on their own because their so-called teammates ditched them as bait, while the other one shouts for him to focus because a wave of monster rabbits is barreling toward them fast. The monstrous rabbits leap at them with their grotesque wide-open mouths filled with writhing tentacles and fang, but the guy manages to summon a force field just in time to keep them from becoming dinner. Though, he quickly realizes the barrier won't hold for long and starts wishing he had just taken on odd jobs instead. Regretting every decision that led to this moment, he starts screaming for someone to help. Just as his shield shatters into nothing, our boy swoops in with the kind of entrance that gives off serious Superman landing energy, and both hunters freeze, stunned to see an actual person casually appear out of nowhere. The sheer pressure from his presence alone sends the snow rabbits into a panic, and without hesitation they scatter like scared little rodents, leaving the 2 hunters standing there absolutely bewildered over how B-class monsters just ran for their lives from a half-naked man. They rush to thank him, introducing themselves as Xiang Zhou and Kim Taebun, and ask for his name, which he shares, but neither of them has ever heard a name quite like that before. Kim Taebun begins to wonder out loud if he might be some kind of reclusive hunter, judging by his rugged caveman aesthetic, while our guy flips the question and asks what they're doing wandering around in a death trap like this, since they don't exactly seem higher than D-class. The 2 explain that they're on a mission to capture a chimera alive in exchange for a rather generous bounty, which instantly grabs our boy's attention. One of them clarifies that the chimera thereafter escaped from a lab and leapt into a gate mid-chase, which actually comes as a huge relief to him since it confirms they're not tracking him down. He then asks where their gear is, wondering how they ended up roaming the wild completely empty-handed and whether they at least have a gate stone on them, to which the guy explains that their so-called teammates bailed with all their equipment and that the betrayal had been part of their plan from the start, something he now regrets not picking up on sooner. Hearing all of this, our boy silently locks eyes on their gate, and as the hunters try to explain how they're suffering from mana contamination and won't be able to survive much longer, they desperately ask if he has a way out since humans can only survive a limited time in the demon world before needing to return and purify themselves, or they'll die from overexposure. One of them even pleads with him to help, mentioning that he has a pregnant wife waiting back home, but before they can even finish the sentence, our guy suddenly freezes as if sensing a shift in the cosmos, then takes off mid-air like the Hulk, leaving them hanging mid-monologue with the wind in their faces. Elsewhere, the robot-like chimera finds itself standing at the edge of a cliff, and the same hunters who ditched earlier try to ambush it from behind, but the creature slowly turns to face them, making it very clear that it now intends to erase them from existence. As our boy pulls up to the scene, his eyes go a little wide, wondering if he showed up too late. Up ahead, blood and gear are scattered across the ground, while a flickering blue energy ball slowly fades at the edge of the cliff, which makes him think the hunters must have ditched and run. They even left all their loot behind, and judging by the mix of child and animal footprints, it looks like the test subject might have changed forms mid-fight. He recalls what the monster hunter said earlier about it being a lab experiment that jumped into the gate during its escape. It is made from liquid metal, so it can freely shift forms, but due to how rare the material is, they built it small and compact like a child. Chilong looks down the cliff and can barely hold in a laugh, realizing this mechanical little gremlin somehow managed to wreck 5 B-rank hunters. Meanwhile, back with our battered hunter duo, Kim desperately shakes Shang-Jo, telling him not to give up, but the poor guy coughs out that his whole body is contaminated now and he's done for. But Kim doesn't accept that and brings up his family. Shang-Jo uses what little strength he has left to ask Kim to apologize to them for him, but Kim yells at him to hang on and insists that miracles do exist. Right then, someone steps into view, making Kim immediately tense up, but it turns out to be Chaelong, casually strolling back with all their luggage. The moment the monster hunter sees him, he runs over, drops to his knees, and basically starts praying to Daddy Chaelong to save them both. Our hero is confused at first, but then remembers that he told them he didn't have a gate stone. That's when Kim suddenly pulls something from his pocket, 2 10 million yen checks, and begs him to please hand them a gate stone. He keeps rambling that if they don't get out now, they're definitely going to die. Meanwhile, Chaelong stares at the money and tries to imagine the total amount in his head. He knows there's no way to use it in this world, but once he hits the human world, it'll come in real handy. So with all the generosity his chaotic heart can muster, he pulls out a gate stone. Kim drops into a flawless 90-degree bow and starts thanking him over and over, swearing he'll never forget this kindness. The monster hunter runs back to his partner, yelling that they're getting out of here as fast as possible, while Chaelong just eyes the 2 checks, wondering where to stash them as the 2 make their way toward the gate. Chaelong asks what the current gate stone price is, and gets told it's hit 1 million yen. Ever the humble guy he is, he says he feels like he got paid way too much and puts a hand on Shang-Jo's shoulder and casually says he'll give him some change. Instead, Kim looks confused until he realizes what Chaelong is doing, that he is injecting mana directly into his partner. He instantly yells at him to stop, as transferring mana to someone else is dangerous, and if it reacts badly, both people could drop dead on the spot. Kim panics, thinking this is how it ends, but then Shang-Jo suddenly jolts upright like someone just pressed reset as the demonic energy inside him gets completely purified. He grabs Kim in a tearful hug, while the poor guy just stands there stunned, trying to process what just happened. Chaelong turns around to leave as Shang-Jo shouts that he'll never forget this favor, while Kim is still frozen in shock as he tries to figure out who Chaelong even is. Our boy heads back home and pauses outside for a second, then breathes out in relief after sensing no intruders. The mandragora plants start waking up. Their leaves look droopy and sad, which instantly raises red flag, so he gets to work planting them right away. Once they're all in the soil, he wonders if they're going to be okay, but they still look pretty miserable. Chaelong stares at their depressed expressions and thinks it might be from being ripped out of their original habitat, or maybe they're just starving. Deciding to test the second theory, he injects a little of his mana into the soil. The monster plants instantly perk up like they just drank an espresso, and our boy can't help but smile at the result. While he's chatting with his leafy new roommates, he senses a presence behind him. He figures it's probably the mechanical creature those hunters were chasing, though he finds it weird weird that it followed him all the way here. Choosing to ignore it for now, he stashes the cash and starts sorting through the loot bag. Turns out he scored big as he now has spare clothes, sleeping bags, cooking gear, and just then his eyes light up when he finds a packet of ramen. The last time he ate that stuff was back at the orphanage, and the nostalgia hits hard. Feeling hungry and hyped, he decides to cook it up right away, following the recipe as best he can. He heads to the lake for water, but quickly realizes he's got no clue how to measure the right amount. Before he can think too hard, the sharp-toothed lake fish suddenly leap out like they're trying to get a bite. Remembering how people usually toss random stuff into ramen for flavor, he readies his fingers and flicks the soul out of one of the poor fish. Next up, he scavenges around for ingredients like eggs and maybe green onions. He comes across some weird capsule-shaped eggs and grabs a few, and since there's no actual green onion around, he settles for fresh tree leaves, figuring they're close enough. He then tosses everything into a pot and decides that's good enough for prep. That's when the little robot steps out, holding its stomach like it's starving as it eyes the cooking pot. Meanwhile, Chai-Long lights the fire and notes that the instructions don't say when to add the fish, so he just throws everything in to boil together. As the smell starts rising from the pot, the monster plants instantly start gagging in disgust, while Chai-Long quietly wonders if ramen always smelled like this. The smell wafts over to the mechanical creature, who starts swaying from the pure scent of food. It floats a little closer while thinking it wants to eat too, then suddenly transforms into a puppy. It remembers from the lab that humans love dogs, so he decides to take advantage of that and starts limping towards Chai-Long, fake whimpering to squeeze out some sympathy. But Chai-Long watches all this with a deadpan face, not even slightly surprised. He figures the thing's just trying to lower his guard and that the injury is clearly staged. Looking at its overly cute puppy act, he thinks it's still young and clueless, and wonders how something like that managed to escape from the lab to the demon realm on its own. Playing along, he asks if it wants a taste of the ramen, which makes the creature drool instantly, but right in front of them is a death brew of random nonsense that could take out a grown man. But still, they both decide to risk it. The moment they take a bite, the dog pauses as it tries to process the flavor, but Chai-Long, on the other hand, gets flashbanged into a memory of hot pot back at the orphanage, and smiles while claiming it tastes just like it did back then. Our hero declares it to be delicious, since the memory is strong enough to override the horror of the actual flavor. Meanwhile, the poor mandragoras are seconds away from ascension to their next life from the toxic smell. After they finish the meal, Chai-Long tells the dog it's time to clean up and that it can leave now. As the mechanical pup limps away, Chai-Long casually points out that it was limping on the other leg earlier. The robot then hurriedly switches back to limping on the original foot, while Chai-Long barely holds in his laugh. After finishing the dishes, he moves on to the laundry, beating the pollen-covered clothes with a stick like people used to do in the old days. Though not particularly fond of pollen, he figures he can't keep living in nothing but a leather outfit like some caveman. He tries to strike the fabric gently to avoid tearing it, but one swing ends up shattering the rock beneath and obliterating the garment along with it. After a brief moment of awkward silence, he sighs and picks up the last piece of clothing. That's when he notices the robot creature still lingering nearby, observing him from a distance. Earlier, it had disguised itself as a rock, before that as a fish while he was washing dishes, and before that as a tree while he tended to the flowers. He realizes that the creature has been following him all along, silently shifting shapes without ever approaching directly. This continues until a bee lands on its nose, causing it to freak out and yell that it hates bees. Judging by the behavior, he estimates the creature's age to be under 5. Its speech is mechanical and awkward, a trait often seen in young chimeras with artificially implanted memories. Choosing to ignore it, he clears his throat to make the creature aware of his presence and casually comments on how lovely the forsythia flowers are. Meanwhile, he finishes the laundry and mutters that the task was harder than he expected. Unfortunately, he realizes the clothes are too small for him, which feels like a waste after all the effort he put in. He hangs the laundry on a silk thread, then decides to check on the mandragoras. The creature, seizing the moment, grabs the shirt he just washed and wears it, eager to look like him. After declaring the shirt its own, it transforms into a small human girl. Meanwhile, he finds the mandragora children struggling against the soil. Their leaves are wilting and their roots look dried out, which is odd since he already cleared all the weeds. Curious, he digs around and discovers that the soil is still filled with worms and debris, making it difficult for the plants to grow properly. He realizes he should have tilled the soil from the start, and this oversight might have endangered the mandragora kids. Wanting to make things right, he starts preparing a garden about the size of his house. Just then, the mechanical girl steps in front of him and greets greets him. He's a bit surprised to hear her speak at last. She asks whether the house belongs to him, and he replies that it does. Immediately, she concludes that he must be a native of the demon realm, deciding to mess with her a little. He plays along and asks which tribe she's from. The question confuses her, but she tries to bluff her way through, claiming she comes from a very distant place across the waterfall, one that he wouldn't be able to find. He jokes, asking if that means she's from the coconut tribe, and without missing a beat, she nods proudly like it's the most obvious thing in the world. When he questions her about the shirt, she casually explains that in her tribe, whoever finds something owns it. It's just their way. He's entertained by her logic, lets her keep it, and asks what she's doing all the way out here. She responds that she was kicked out of her tribe and shyly asks if she can stay here with him, explaining that there are no bugs and there's an actual house. So overall, it just seems safe. This while nervously twiddling her thumbs like she's rehearsing a puppy eye audition, realizing she's just looking for a peaceful place to rest. He agrees, but only if she pulls her weight and helps out with the chores. Her eyes light up instantly and she asks what he wants her to do, fully ready to dive into whatever mission he throws her way. He tells her they need to prepare a vegetable patch so the mandragoras can have a proper home. Without hesitation, she grabs the stick, strikes a confident pose, and says she's strong enough for the job. Then she proceeds to absolutely obliterate the soil like it's made of sponge cake. Watching her effortlessly rip through the ground, he thinks to himself that she's either seriously bad at pretending to be normal or just has no idea how average kids function. He finally introduces himself and asks for her name. She pauses, clearly caught off guard since she doesn't have a name, and after drawing inspiration from the flowers she saw earlier, she declares that her name is Kim Mari. He can tell that she just copied it from Forsythia, but she's committed now and repeats it with a straight face. Soon the patch is ready, and Chai Long even manages to set up a neat little stone fence around it. Seeing the mandragora roots looking so cheerful makes him wish he'd done all this sooner. But then Kim Mari suddenly gets all quiet. He notices the shift and asks why she's crying. She wipes her eyes and says the mandragoras remind her of her friends, which makes him pause and wonder if something like friendship could even exist in the lab. Before he can ask more, a shrill, high-pitched screech cuts through the forest. He explains to her that it's just monsters hunting each other. Background music really in this kind of place, but Kim Mari curls up in worry and tells him that she saw a little chick earlier before she found his place, and now she's afraid it might be in trouble. Chai Long nods, and she adds that it looked like it had already been bitten. He tells her bluntly that it's probably going to get eaten soon. Watching her tremble, he figures she wants to save it, but can't bring herself to do it. She mutters that she can't save monsters, and it hits him that the brainwashing probably still has her locked up mentally, preventing her from making her own choices. So instead of telling her what to do, he offers a suggestion, phrased carefully, that the chick might survive if she goes back for it, and that's all it took to get her up and sprinting. Meanwhile, in the woods, wasp-like abominations with two terrifying rows of sideways teeth are already attacking the injured chick, just as one of them moves in to finish the job. Kim Mari bursts in like a caffeinated tornado, kicks one of their heads clean off, saying that she'll save the chick no matter what. During the fight, she flashes back to her time in the lab. The other Chimera kids resented her for constantly winning first place in ranked combat trials. That meant the other kids became eligible for the scariest experiments with the highest failure rates. They snatched away her plush toy, shoved her to the ground, and told her she should let them win for once. They even said it would have been better if she didn't exist while they kicked her non-stop. She never understood it because she was just doing what she was told. Now staring down the monsters, she screams at them to stop. She yells that it's wrong for a group to gang up on someone weaker, then swings her fist and sends the last wasp flying into another dimension. Back at the house, Chai Long is casually feeding mana to the mandragora roots, probably feeling like a low-key plant dad. When Kim Mari shows up again, she's running toward him, cradling the chick in her arms and yelling for help, panicked that it won't wake up. He tells her to slow down and take a breath. As he takes a closer look, something about the little fluff ball starts to feel strangely familiar. Kim Mari keeps crying, panicking over whether the poor ball of fluff is about to die. While Chai Long stays calm and offers to take a closer look, he reaches out and pours a bit of mana into the little fluff ball, then relaxes as he realizes the wound doesn't look fatal. Every monster's magic carries its own specific history, and even though this one shrank down and changed color, Chai Long instantly knows it's the same creature he skinned back then. He strikes a Sherlock shock pose, trying to figure out why it shrank so much, while Kim Mari keeps asking if it's going to die, but Chailong reassures her that the thing's just malnourished and only shriveled up from starvation. He says he's already given it some mana, so if they just let it be, it should recover on its own. However, Kim Mari suddenly spirals into a trauma flashback as her mind drags her back to that lab to her ripped up doll with a shaky voice. She says they can't just leave it alone as it keeps flopping over like a sad pancake. She hugs it tight while pulling out the puppy eyes and asks if she can keep it, promising to take care of it properly. Chailong smiles and warns her it might grow too big to handle, but she fires back that she'll just feed it a tiny bit. He folds under the pressure of her cute attack and her eyes light up like it's the 4th of July, and he jokes that it could work as their guard dog, or rather a guard bird. Right then, the fluff ball opens its eyes and looks around in complete confusion, eventually locking onto Chailong as it recognizes him and lets out a low, menacing coo. Kim Mari jumps at the sound, lifting it up with a squeal, saying it's finally talking while the bird just looks around, wondering what kind of hell it woke up in. She hugs it again as it flails helplessly while Chailong stands there awkwardly, not sure how to process this madness. The fluff ball yells out again and demands to be let go, which catches Chailong off guard that he can actually understand it. A few moments later, Kim Mari wraps it up like a mummy and proudly announces that treatment is complete, then says she already picked a name for it. While the bird continues to squirm, she explains that since it acts like a pigeon, she's going to name it Coop, which Chailong finds sort of hilarious. The angry bird immediately starts going off at Kim Mari for coming up with such a ridiculous name, but she obviously can't understand it, so she dumps a whole bucket of water on its head, saying it must be thirsty. Then she pauses in confusion and asks Chailong why the bird's now bloated like a water balloon. He tells her that's probably enough hydration for now, so she dashes off to grab food instead. Meanwhile, Chailong figures he should finally get a proper storage cabinet running since all their stuff's piling up, but when he tries to cut the wood, it just splits like cheap cardboard. He's confused since he made the table and chair just fine with the same method. The fluff ball is clearly done with his nonsense and points out that it's soft wood, so of course it doesn't work. Chailong realizes wood types matter and asks which color wood's the strongest. The bird instantly answers red wood, but then it freezes mid-sentence as reality crashes down that it just got understood. It stares at Chailong in horror, wondering if he's been able to hear it this whole time. Locking eyes, it wobbles to its feet and then activates its mind skill to try to read Chailong's mind, but nothing happens as telepathy fails. However, Chailong just looks around innocently and says he doesn't see any red trees nearby. He wonders if they grow in another region while the bird panics. Realizing its mental powers just got blocked, eventually it drops the act and flat out asks Chailong if he can hear it. Chailong explains it's not really hearing, but the words just kind of show up in his brain, but then he flips it by asking how a monster can even understand human language like that. He figures the bird must be one of those super rare intelligent monsters that somehow get born against all odds, but it's his first time seeing one up close. Chailong then asks point blank if it's the same bird from before, which the fluff confirms, saying it came back because it wanted to see him again since Chailong saved its life. It wanted to repay the favor if they ever met again. Not wasting any time, Chailong tells it to help him right now. That catches the bird off guard, but it sighs, takes a breath, and agrees to guide him to the red trees. Meanwhile, not far away, Kim Marie's running like her life depends on it, while dodging fireballs raining down behind her, yelling at whoever's attacking to back off. Tears stream down her face as she cries out that it's too hot, and suddenly, a blast sends her crashing face first into the dirt. Her mind almost shuts down as she starts to panic, thinking the labs found her, and she's done for. Just then, someone steps out of the fire who has long hair flowing dramatically like some third-rate anime extra. Looking at his tracker, he confirms she's the mechanical creature they were after, charging up another attack. He mumbles that his life's on the line too, and throws another fireball at Kim Mari, who can only stare at it in defeat. But before it hits, our hero pulls the classic Chad move, stepping in front of her and effortlessly diffusing the attack like he's swatting a fly. Ku immediately tells him the tree directions can wait as the girl's top priority right now. Chailong notices that Kim Marie's terrified of fire and doesn't look mentally stable at all. He decides to put out the flames first, and the fluff ball agrees, adding that only a complete trash bag would go after a child. Rapunzel over there glares and roasts Chailong and calls him a caveman, then threatens to beat him down if he doesn't back off. Chailong fires back that this Rapunzel cosplayer talks way too much, which instantly sets him off. The guy screams that Chailong's ruining his dramatic moment and hurls a massive fireball at him. Chailong just raises a finger and pulls a Frieza move, blasting the attack away like it's a birthday candle. The explosion behind Rapunzel is massive, and he just stands there stunned while trying to process what just happened. Debris starts falling, but it's already too late as he gets buried under a pile of rubble. A few moments later, Chailong walks up to Kim Mari and asks if she's okay, who then wipes her eyes and thanks him for putting all the flames out. He then gives her a solid piece of advice that the next time she's scared, she should punch the fear itself. As he walks toward Rapunzel, he grabs him by the hair and continues the pep talk, but suddenly stops mid-sentence. He stares at the wig in his hand in silence and realizes that the guy underneath is suffering from full-blown shiny egghead syndrome. When Kim Mari looks at the bald head, she bursts into laughter and says, "The guy does not look that scary anymore." Our boy glances at her and wonders how she ever got pushed around by someone so painfully low tier. The Phoenix Fluffball decides to step in and show him everything Kim Mari went through by using his mental resonance ability. This ability is a power that lets him dive into someone's memories and share them with others. Inside that vision, he sees a mad scientist cackling like he just invented evil itself. The man walks toward Kim Mari, who is semi-conscious, and realizes that she is slowly gaining self-awareness. With his fingers blazing like tiny torches, he starts hurting her in the name of a durability test. Watching that makes Chailong gently pat Kim Mari's head and tell her that she did well. He decides to help her break the old trauma loop, one small step at a time. He looks at the little phoenix and asks what they should do with the egghead, and Kim Mari's eyes light up with a mischievous idea. Together, they tie the poor man to a giant boulder and leave him hanging from a waterfall. Kim Mari claims the water will put out his fire and make him less scary. When the guy wakes up, he literally looks confused and realizes this is definitely not what he signed up for. Kim Mari crosses her arms and calls him a bad bald man again, just for fun. Our boy sighs and tells her not to judge people by their looks, but she gives him a glare while holding a pot like a weapon. Ku asks what he's doing, and Chailong says he is fetching water for ramen. Kim Mari instantly brightens up since Chailong's fish ramen is her absolute favorite. He teases her by asking if the coconut tribe eats fish ramen too. She pauses, then proudly declares that the coconut tribe absolutely loves it. Meanwhile, the bald man quietly assesses his situation and figures the person who captured him must be at least an A+ rank hunter, maybe higher. He thinks Chailong might even be hiding powers beyond that. As the group gathers ingredients for ramen, the bald man stares blankly at them, thinking that hanging someone from a waterfall and then eating noodles next to him feels just a little too hardcore. Kim Mari bursts out of the water like a mini sea monster holding 3 fish beasts in her arms. Our hero takes one look at her haul and tells her to toss 2 back and keep only 1 because he is not running a seafood market here. The bald guy watches from the side, half horrified and half confused, wondering if tossing that fish monster into ramen might make it taste like straight up ocean water. He also notices that they have dumped way too much water into the pot and starts doubting if these people even know what ramen is supposed to be. Before they start cooking chaos, he yells for them to stop and promises to handle the cooking if they let him loose. Soon enough, Baldy stands at their makeshift wooden table looking weirdly dramatic, like he is on a cooking show with imaginary stage lights shining on him. He mutters that some might think ramen is simple, but right now his entire life depends on this single bowl. As he glances at the hungry eyes locked onto him, he calls ramen a pure food and decides to rely on the most classic cooking method, mostly because he doesn't actually know any other way to cook. He pours water based on pure intuition, measuring for 3 portions, and once it boils, he drops in the noodles and soup base. He mentally calculates that it should take about 4 minutes and 30 seconds, but since he has no watch, he starts counting the seconds using his heartbeat, after what he guesses is around 200 beats. He lifts the noodles to let them hit the air for that perfect springy texture. When he finally finishes, he sighs that kimchi would have been perfect, but since he is stuck in the demon realm, this will do just fine. He presents the ramen proudly, and they look stunned for a second before diving in. The very first bite sends them straight to flavor heaven, and Kim Mari, with the fluff ball look, genuinely betrayed that food could taste this good. Chailong, meanwhile, just focuses on inhaling his portion like a man on a mission. A little later, the group sits there stuffed to the brim, while the bald man waits awkwardly for their verdict. Chailong looks at him and asks what he wants in return for serving such divine noodles, promising he will grant any requests. The bald man wastes no time and drops to his his knees, asking for Chaelong's guidance and introducing himself as Nimisayak. Our hero looks at the guy with mild confusion and asks what kind of guidance he's talking about. Neem explains that Chaelong is easily the strongest person he has ever met and figures that someone like him must have built this house to train long term. He claims he can cook all kinds of dishes, casually flexes fake chef credentials, and throws in that he once worked with his dad as a fry cook just to sound legit. Trying to look useful, Nim offers to travel between the human and demon realms to bring supplies, even promising to pay for lessons. Finally, he admits that his real goal is to become an A-class hunter. Naturally, our boy asks why he attacked Kim Mari. Nim hesitates and asks if Chaelong means the machine creature, but Chaelong cuts him off and says she's from the coconut tribe. Nim instantly catches on and rolls with it, pretending he totally knew that. He says the reason for attacking her was personal, not for money or fame, and he didn't even care about the kid, he just wanted to pass the hunter promotion exam. Hearing that, Chaelong crosses his arms and tells him to stand up for a sparring match. Before Nim can respond, Kim Mari steps forward and declares that she wants a rematch with the fire-flinging uncle. Nim smirks and warns her not to underestimate him, but Chaelong asks if he can break a boulder made of adamantite, which is harder than diamond. Nim admits only A-class hunters can, and before he can blink, Kim Mari smashes the rock and his confidence in one clean move. It turns out Nim was born with ridiculous talent and awakened his powers when he was just 8, while most kids were still trying to figure out multiplication tables. Since then, he trained like a possessed man and climbed the ranks so fast it made older hunters question their life choices. By the time he hit 20, he already stood as a solid B+ class hunter with a bright future ahead of him. He dreamed of becoming the greatest hunter alive, the kind whose name echoed across realms, but fate decided to play dirty. Around the same age, most people start awakening. His hairline began to pack its bags and leave. Through his 20s, his thick hair turned into a sad memory until he was left with a shiny head and a tragic hairline that looked like it had given up too. He tried every treatment known to humankind, but the doctors eventually told him to stop wasting his money and accept the truth. And just like that, the handsome prodigy with talent and charm lost everything he had built, along with his hair went his confidence. And without that, his growth as a hunter came to a screeching halt. That is, until one random day he caught a TV interview featuring Dr. Han, a scientist who had discovered a mysterious liquid metal in the demon realm. The old guy explained that he had accidentally spilled some of it on his head and somehow grew a full mane of silky hair. Despite being 90, Nim nearly cried from hope when the host asked if he'd make a cure for baldness. The doctor instead revealed that he had used the liquid to create a machine creature. Nim almost lost his mind, convinced that humanity needed a cure for baldness way more than a glorified toaster with legs. A few days later, he learned that the machine creature had escaped into the demon realm. Since the demon realm had no real laws, he chased after it, planning to catch it and pour the metal straight onto his bald head. Unfortunately, reality smacked him harder than expected when he got taken down by a kid. Our hero comments that Nim didn't even land a single hit. Chaelong tells him to train harder or he'll never qualify as his sparring partner. Nim promises to do better while our guy finishes a redwood shelf, thanking Ku for the ideas and glances over at Nim. Despite getting smacked around all day, the guy looks calm, focused, and quietly summons a blazing scythe in his hand. Ku comments that Nim might be good with fire, but he is still getting schooled by a kid. Chaelong calmly reminds him that Kim Mari is no ordinary child. And as the fight continues, that fact becomes crystal clear. Nim charges forward and swings his blazing scythe, but Kim Mari slips away at the last second by turning her body into liquid. Before the poor guy even processes what just happened, she reforms and kicks him square in the face, sending him flying until he crashes into a nearby cliff with a loud thud. Kim Mari stands tall and declares that she is not afraid of fire anymore. Nim lies there dazed, wondering if this is where his potential finally hits its ceiling. Yet somehow he pulls himself up again, reminding himself that he never quits. No matter how bad it looks, he challenges her for another round, but stops when he feels blood dripping from his nose. Chaelong looks at him and asks how long he has been in the demon realm. Nim wipes his face and says it has been 9 days. Our hero tells him that if he stays any longer, the mana corruption will kill him, and Nim nods in understanding. Chaelong then tells him that he has the potential to reach A-class level, which completely catches Nim off guard. The man admits he thought people who failed the hunter exam for over 3 years were hopeless, and he himself has been failing for 6. Even so, Shylong tells him not to give up, saying that his mana just has not fully matured yet. He advises him to purify it once he returns, and Nim thanks him respectfully, calling him brother. Shylong promises that he will raise him into an A-rank hunter someday. Before long, Nim stands near a portal preparing to leave. He asks if they want anything from the human world, and everyone immediately yells for ramen. Kim Mari smiles and tells him to stay safe, and Nim replies that he will definitely beat her next time. Just before stepping through the portal, he turns and asks if anyone has seen his wig, but Shylong genuinely has no clue. After he leaves, Ku voices his concern about whether Nim can be trusted. Shylong asks what he means, and the little fluffball says that Nim could betray them and lead other hunters here. Shylong asks for his read on the guy, and Coop quietly confirms that everything Nim said was true. The whole exchange makes Shylong look forward to training Nim even more, and Kim Mari finally asks if he can actually understand the fluffball. He nods and casually mentions that he even built the storage shelf based on the bird's advice. Curious, he asks if the room looks neat now, and Kim Mari replies that it was too dark to tell. Shylong takes the hint and quickly adds a few windows, letting warm sunlight pour in. Kim Mari smiles, clearly liking the bright new look, which makes our boy wonder how to keep the room glowing even after nightfall. When Kim Mari asks how they are supposed to get a light source, Shylong says they need glowstones, crystals that naturally shine in the dark. He plans to hang them across the ceiling to light up the place like a soft night sky. Ku starts sweating nervously and asks where exactly Shylong plans on getting those glowstones from. Shylong answers that they will have to visit the volcanic region. Ku immediately warns him that it is one of the most dangerous areas known to hunters, and quietly adds that it also happens to be his hometown. Shylong notices the way Ku's tone drops even while talking about home, and Kim Marie picks up on it too. She turns to Shylong and asks what the bird said since he sounds upset. Shylong explains that Ku is worried about the idea of heading to the volcanic region, so he offers to go there alone. Kim Mari immediately refuses to stay behind, saying that she is no longer afraid of fire and wants to go with him. Shylong turns to Ku, who sighs and says he will come along too since he has a few errands to handle there anyway. With that, the whole team is ready for their next adventure. As Shylong starts preparing their gear, the Mandragora roots nearby can be seen playing in the fields with Nim's missing wig, completely unaware of its previous owner's misery. Far away, deep in the volcanic region, the ground rumbles as if something massive is stirring beneath the molten surface. An ominous creature lifts its head and lets out a haunting cry that echoes through the endless inferno. It is said there are 3 places in the demon realm where even the bravest hunters would never dare step foot, and the volcanic zone is one of them. First off, the ash floating in the air is so hot it can roast human skin, and the burning gas mixed in melts straight through the lungs. Yet, there's Kim Mari casually dipping her feet in molten magma like it's a damn hot spring. The tiny phoenix just stares. The little fluffball figures it must be normal for something that is clearly not human to handle heat like this. But what really bugs him is how our boy is perfectly fine. Shylong simply replies that he is a chimera hunter. He might look human now, but he's somehow regenerated into this form after his transformation. Then he asks the phoenix if it's fine tagging along with them, and the little fluffball says that it's better than being all alone again. Watching the two chat about something that sounds deep, Kim Mari pouts and wants to join in on the conversation. That's when he remembers she once asked about his past. She simply laughs in response and says there's no need anymore because she already knows he's a native of the demon realm, just like her. Later, they start climbing the volcano, and Kim Mari points out a thick cloud of smoke billowing from what looks like the peak. Up there, they finally find the luminous stones they came for, but down below, a massive flame toad is bawling its eyes out. Just then, Kim Mari notices another one nearby. Master Coop quickly realizes what's going on. The male toad is grieving because the female died along the way. He adds that the eggs on her back will be cooked alive since she collapsed in a spot where the heat is too high. The floofball feels sad at the tragic fate. That's when our boy gets an idea. He tells Kim Marie to wait for him and dives straight into the heart of the volcano crater. He lands right in front of the toad, who immediately glares at him with murderous intent. Without warning, the beast unleashes a massive blast of fire straight at him. However, he casually sprints straight through the scorching fire and points his finger at the toad, giving it a light boop on the nose. That simple tap makes the massive creature collapse instantly. Turns out Chailong used the potent venom of a cobra, a toxin powerful enough to knock out even a poison-resistant flame toad, though it should only keep it unconscious for a few minutes at best. Watching him walk out of the flames completely unharmed feels unreal, so Kim Mari asks if he is okay. He assures them he is perfectly fine, since he also has flame toad cells in his body. There is literally nothing this guy was not injected with anyway. He notices that a few of the eggs have already been cooked, but he carefully makes sure the remaining ones will survive. By the time the daddy toad wakes up, he finds the eggs tied to his back and immediately moves to pay his respects to his fallen partner. After that, the creature leaps high into the air and lands beside Kim Mari. It gives her a single longing glance, and she cheers up, convinced it was saying thank you. Chailong knows it was really looking at its partner, but he lets the little bird brain dream on. Later, Kim Mari starts pulling out rocks nearly as big as her head. He warns her not to drop one on her foot. The phoenix is exhausted, slumping to the ground and feeling pathetic when he remembers how he used to toss boulders like toys back in the day. He tells him he does not need to help and should just go meet his friends like he planned, but that instantly ticks the fluff ball off. He flaps angrily and chirps that monsters do not have friends. He is not meeting them anyway. He just wants to leave behind some gifts. Our hero is surprised to learn that even intelligent monsters could feel lonely. Flustered, the tiny fluff ball blurts out that the only reason he is doing this is because he regrets not saying a proper goodbye before leaving. Then the phoenix's tone changes. He gets serious and shares that while his intelligence let him understand the beauty of the world and its many creatures, it was also a curse. He had to watch the others mindlessly devour other creatures without a thought, and that made him feel alone. He felt like Albert Einstein stuck in a horde of brainless monkeys. To escape that crushing loneliness, he left the herd, and now he does not really care if they survived or not, since he never felt truly close to them anyway. As the baby phoenix struggles to pull another stone from the rock wall, which suddenly pops free and smashes onto something below, Kim Mari hears a loud cracking sound only to see an egg on the ground cracked open. She worries that the phoenix killed it, but our hero explains that the shell is naturally tough. The baby inside has to keep pushing again and again until it becomes strong enough to break through on its own. Kim Mari feels bad for the baby and suggests they take it home, but the tiny phoenix explodes, yelling that it is too dangerous if it hatches. Chailong remembers there is a nest that is perfect for it, so he decides they will take it along. Kim Mari is absolutely thrilled to carry it all the way, while Coop warns them this is his first time seeing such a strange-looking egg. Hearing that, she leaves him completely speechless with the argument that it is his fault the egg cracked in the first place. Our boy assures the fluff ball he will be there to keep them safe, and so they continue their mining operation. Later, when they are finally back, he is surprised to see the man with hair deficiency waiting for more. Neem excitedly offers to take the bag off his hands and proudly claims he is strong enough to carry it, as Chailong warns him it weighs a ton. The bag instantly drops to the ground. Frustrated, Nim wonders what exactly he is carrying that weighs so much. However, our boy notices the guy is crying a little and gently asks him how he ended up with that bandage on his face, thinking he got into a fight. Our boy says he did not expect he is the kind of guy who always gets beat up. Feeling embarrassed, Nim quickly dashes away to get the food ready. Later, Kim Mari curiously asks our hero what he is making by carving the luminescent stone, and he explains he wants to use it as a light bulb. His big brain idea simply amazes Kim Mari, while the way he helped the flame toad shows his kind heart is huge as well. She says he is exactly like a dad now, but when he asks about her father from the coconut tribe, Kim Mari decides to stop running her mouth. Meanwhile, somewhere nearby, the phoenix is chilling in the warm sunset heat when he suddenly gets ambushed by a tower of 3 menaces stacked on top of each other. The mandragora at the top bounces off the ones on the bottom and goes in for a special drill attack, but the tiny troublemaker simply bounces off the white Jigglypuff busy sunbathing. Later, Nim serves them a sweet potato recipe that is trending with the kids. He takes full pride in his cooking, knowing the ready-to-make recipe looks amazing for something this low effort. Kim Mari and Ku are really impressed by it, but Chailong wants to get an answer about his question from earlier before they start eating. Nim does not want to share the story at first, but after a while, he spills that he got caught by some A-rankers on his way to apply at the Hunters Association. However, they told him to stop draining their aura by breathing the same oxygen as them. That made him angry, and he threw hands with them, and the rest is history. Nim admits he lost it when they asked if his self-respect also fell as fast as his hair. Then Chailong asks when when the next test is coming. Our boy replies, "It will come in 60 days. Hearing that, he offers to give Neum personal coaching, and the bald guy is thrilled. However, his enthusiasm vanishes when he hears the first job is to take over washing the dishes from Kim Mari. Next, he has to wash all of the volcanic dust from the shiny stones, leaving the poor guy gobsmacked. He asks about the special training, but our boy ruthlessly tells him to do it if he does not want to be a B-rank loser his whole life. With that, he leaves with Kim Mari to go fishing, while Nim forces himself to work hard, because unlike what everyone believes, he is a man who got where he is through effort and perseverance, being a Chad who never gives up till the end. He hauls the heavy bag into the forest. The scene shifts to the river, where Kim Mari is annoyed that she cannot catch a single thing. She gets jealous, seeing the bald guy reel in all the fish. Meanwhile, Nim yells at his master for help with the fish, hungry for his flesh, since water-type monsters are his weakness. Chailong gets irritated by how useless he is and lectures him to simply encase his body with a magic barrier, but the bald guy complains that he still cannot wrap his mind around it, so Chailong tells him to hold his crystal. The moment he touches it, all of the strength leaves his arms and they start trembling. Our hero explains that this is the effect of a rare kind of stone that contains raw condensed magic. He adds that Nam's body is just like that, full of magical energy, but he really sucks at using it. At that moment, he pokes the bald guy in the chest and suddenly he can see the magic circulating inside his body. Our protagonist tells Nim to feel the magic flowing along those circuits, and surely enough, the guy's arms are soon wrapped in a silver aura. He then instructs Nim to pick up the stone again with mana flowing through his arms. With all the power he can muster, the bald guy activates his inner Satama genes and deadlifts it over his head. Nim laughs like a maniac upon realizing his master's genius plan to do chores had a purpose. After all, our boy tells him to keep doing his job while running mana through his body, and the One Punch Man from a thrift store agrees to do it gladly with tears in his eyes. Later that night, the three are sleeping under the luminous stone's gentle light. Ku is having trouble sleeping because of his midday nap, but suddenly he gets alert upon seeing Kim Mari quietly leaving in the middle of the night. He follows Kim Mari outside and notices her looking down. Upset that her only dress got dirty, she kneels by the stream and starts washing it carefully, hoping to make it clean again. The baby phoenix watches her quietly, and soon Chailong appears too, asking why she is washing clothes in the middle of the night. Ku scoffs at the question and reminds him that she is a girl with no other clothes to change into. That makes Chailong pause, realizing that while he never cared much about what he wore, he might have overlooked the girl's needs. Kim Mari finishes washing and steps out of the water proudly, only to find Coop and Chailong standing nearby. Not wanting to startle her, Chailong casually mentions that the night air feels nice and says he is just out for a walk with the fluff ball. He asks if she is walking too, and she nods shyly. Chailong then asks her to stop for a moment, ties a rope belt around her waist, and tucks a few flowers into it. Kim Mari's eyes brighten instantly, and she remarks that it looks like him. Chailong smiles and says that Forsythia happens to be his favorite flower. A sudden rustle in the bushes makes Kim Mari flinch, but Chailong assures her it is only a steel grasshopper. On their way back, he gently asks if she needs any clothes or shoes. Though his tone feels more fatherly than casual, Kim Mari looks confused and says she likes the outfit he gave her. The next morning, Chailong visits the human world near the District 13 slums, deciding it isn't right for Kim Mari to wear a single set of clothes. The locals glance at him suspiciously, but he barely notices, thinking it would have been better to bring Kim Mari along to pick what she likes. Then he realizes it might be too much for her to face the human realm after what she's been through. He chuckles to himself while looking for a clothing shop near the slums when a young boy approaches and offers to take him there for 10,000 won, claiming he knows a cheap place. Chailong replies that he can pay after getting some change, which makes the boy assume he is another broke rookie who got robbed in the other realm. The boy asks if Chailong has money for clothes and tells him to follow, saying he usually takes payment first, but will make an exception this time. Chailong smiles as the kid introduces himself as Kong Su, so he gives his own name in return, but Kong Su just grins and says he'll call him Big Brother instead. As they walk, Chailong quietly observes how much the slums have changed over the years, though before he can think further, Kong Su suddenly asks if he awakened recently. Chailong raises an eyebrow and asks if he looks like it, and Kong Su explains that since he came out of a portal with no equipment, he assumed Chailong got robbed in the demon realm. He tries to comfort him, saying it happens to everyone sooner or later. Chailong chuckles and points out that Kong Su knows quite a lot for a kid. Offended, Kong Su insists he isn't a kid, claiming he is 17 and only looks small because of poor nutrition, As they continue walking, Chailong spots a group of shady thugs loitering nearby. Kong-soo notices his glance and quickly warns him not to step into District 13. He says, the place has a terrible reputation since the space gang from District 11 moved in. Even the police stopped showing up and the area is now practically lawless. He adds that they are currently standing in District 12, which is the safer edge of the slums. Chailong listens silently and wonders if the orphanage in District 13 still stands after all this time. Elsewhere, a small clothes shop displays a buy one get one free sign, but the owner looks exhausted. She regrets opening a store in a place where most people can't even afford to raise kids. Even though half her stock is children's clothing, she sighs, debating if she should change her business entirely. When the door suddenly creaks open, Kong-soo enters first and cheerfully greets her as Madam Park. She immediately yells that she isn't married and to stop calling her that. He laughs it off and explains that Chailong needs clothes while our hero heads straight to browse through the racks. Park calls Kong-soo over and scolds him for constantly dragging broke hunters into her shop, complaining that she already has a mountain of unpaid tabs waiting to be cleared. The kid gets his cheeks pulled hard and tries to defend himself, saying he couldn't have known whether the man had money or not. The shop owner points out that Chailong doesn't exactly look like someone carrying cash. Kong-soo argues that at least the guy is handsome and reminds her that she was the one who told him to bring in pitiful hunters who reminded her of her late brother. Park fires back that she only said that once or twice and warns that if this continues, they will both end up on the streets. Kong-soo snaps that he never asked for her help in the first place, but Park sighs like an exhausted caretaker and tells him to go wash up, promising to give him some money afterward. Just then, Chailong cuts in and calmly says he wants to buy clothes. He takes out a check worth 10 million won and admits that it's all the money he has. The sight leaves both Park and Kong-soo stunned. Park immediately switches to formal mode while Kong-soo rushes to pull out a chair and sets a table with cookies and a drink for their newfound VIP guest. As Kong-soo ties a napkin around Chailong's neck, Park excitedly explains that they sell everything from adult fashion to children's wear. Chailong simply asks for preschool girls' clothes, a few outfits for himself, and some shoes. Park brightens up instantly since kids' clothing happens to be her specialty and starts showing him the latest spring and summer collection, including lace, casual wear, and endless shades of pink. Kong-soo stands beside him, massaging his shoulders like an overenthusiastic assistant. At checkout, Park can barely hide her joy, having sold over 100 items and emptied most of her stock. She asks if he wants the clothes shipped, but Chailong says he will carry them himself. He then hands Kong-soo a suit and a 100,000 won, saying he still owes him one more favor. Outside, Kong-soo feels uneasy as he leads Chailong toward the inn he mentioned earlier. When Chailong goes inside, Kong-soo's thoughts spiral. He wonders how someone could hand him money and clothes so easily, fearing it might be a trap. He recalls how traffickers often lure kids with kindness. Yet another part of him wonders if Chailong might actually be good-hearted. Like Park, when Chailong steps out, he says the inn owner seems decent and the place looks clean. He hands Kong-soo a key and tells him he won't have to sleep on the streets anymore. He adds that he paid a full year's rent, including meals, and turns to leave. Kong-soo mutters nervously if this is how kidnappings start, and Chailong reminds him that he was the one who led him there in the first place. As the portal lights up behind him, Kong-soo asks what the catch is since they barely know each other, and yet Chailong gave him so much. Chailong answers that the boy reminded him of his own past, saying he once lived the same way. He tells him to take care, and the portal carries him back to the demon realm. Nim looks relieved when Chailong returns, while Kim Mari runs up asking where he disappeared to without telling anyone. Chailong smiles and says he went to buy her a gift, which makes her beam with excitement. Koo seems shocked by the mountain of clothes he brought home, while Nim sulks that none of it is for him. Kim Marie squeals over how cute the dresses look, and Chailong gently tells her to try on whichever she liked. As everyone admires the new clothes, the egg inside the log cabin begins to stir. As Chailong folds the new clothes, he feels oddly relaxed by the simple task. Kim Mari suddenly bursts out of the room, wearing a silk dress and a ribbon hat, looking like a tiny princess. Chailong asks if it is her favorite, and she shyly replies that she wants to try on a few more. Her attempt at wearing suspender pants ends in failure, so she slips into one of Chailong's shirts and pretends to be a ghost. She continues trying on different outfits with such energy that both Koo and Chailong can't help but feel amused watching her. Eventually, Kim Mari picks her favorite outfit because the chick printed on the hoodie reminds her of Coop. Chailong tells her to put the rest of the clothes away, and she nods obediently. The Phoenix then asks where Chailong plans to keep all the clothes since they are running out of space. Chailong replies that he will build a dressing room with a walk-in closet to fix the problem. Koo realizes that means cutting down more trees, but Chailong grins, saying he already has an apprentice for all the labor. He calls out to Nim, saying it's time for special hard training. Nim charges in with full enthusiasm and brings along Chailong's leather suit, calling it training gear. Chailong looks confused, so Nim explains that the suit is coated with some kind of poison that almost killed him when he touched it. He admits that it's unbelievable how Chailong has been wearing the same thing daily, like it's nothing. Chailong thinks to himself that he just never bothered to clean it properly, then casually tells Nim to wear it instead. Nim freezes, completely shocked. While Chailong instructs him to put it on and chop some wood, Ku offers to guide him to which trees need cutting. Nim protests, saying the outfit could kill him, but before the argument can continue, Kim Marie suddenly yells that the egg is moving. Everyone rushes over, and Chailong tells them that it is about to hatch. Nim, looking nervous, asks if the creature will be disaster class, while Kim Marie confidently says it will probably be something cute. While Kim Marie and Nim keep arguing, the egg suddenly cracks and a small eye peeks through the shell. Both of them react in completely opposite ways as the creature inside starts to emerge. Out crawls a monster with sharp claws, a scaled body, and a snapping tongue. But contrary to Nim's fears, the creature turns out to be an oddly adorable chick-snake hybrid that tilts its head and chirps like a bird. Nim stands frozen in disbelief while Kim Marie jumps with excitement. Without warning, the little creature launches itself straight at Nim's face, and he lets out a panicked yell that echoes through the cabin. Later, out in the fields, Ku taps Nim's head with a stick to make him haul wood faster. Though Nim begins to wonder if he is just hallucinating at this point, the poison seeping through the suit makes every breath feel heavier, and he silently admires how Chailong used to wear the same outfit without flinching. Inside the house, Chailong finishes folding the clothes when Kim Marie rushes in, excitedly announcing that the monster is eating bread peacefully and behaves well. Chailong smiles and says the creature must recognize who saved it. They start thinking of a name and finally decide on Shisa, inspired by its snake-like nature. Just as they settle on the name, the little monster leaps out of Kim Marie's hands and she runs after it. Ku watches and says he's glad to see them getting along, while Chailong turns to ask if the phoenix recognizes the species since he has never seen one before. Coop admits he doesn't, but warns Chailong to keep an eye on the mandragora roots. When Chailong asks why, Coop explains that creatures from the volcanic region love to eat plant-type monsters because they are rare there, and especially target those with strong demonic energy. As the small snake slithers toward the mandragora field, Coop reveals that it might be their natural predator. Everyone gathers to watch as tension builds between the two sides. Kim Marie offers to step in and stop them, but Chailong shakes his head and says that in the demon realm, monsters need to establish dominance on their own. Since both are still young, he decides it's safe to let them settle it naturally. The battle begins as Shisa lunges with its claws toward the smallest mandragora, but the larger one swiftly steps in and blocks the strike. The mandragoras form a triangle stance, waiting for the next move. Before long, the second root monster rushes in for a counterattack, but its hit is stopped by Shisa's tail. Little Shisa grins with confidence, though Ku warns that it shouldn't lower its guard so soon. Right after, the smallest mandragora jumps forward from behind and punches Shisa's cheek with its tiny fist. The blow is light, but enough to make Shisa wail and retreat in tears. Kim Marie quickly runs to comfort the poor creature and calm it down. Chailong announces the mandragora roots as the winners, and both Nim and Coop agree the fight was quite a show. Chailong tells everyone to return to work, and Coop resumes smacking Nim on his shiny head. Far away across a vast sea, an eagle chimera flies swiftly over the waves as if in a hurry. Back at the house, Ku keeps pushing Nim to pull the timber with more effort, while Kim Marie and Shisa coat the wood with slime to make it waterproof. Chailong finishes folding the laundry and takes a moment to look around, satisfied that the long day's work is finally wrapping up. After 2 sleepless days, Nim sighs with relief and tosses away the poisoned leather shirt that nearly drove him mad. He examines the newly built changing room, checking every corner to see if it matches the plan he followed, and wonders if it turned out well enough. Before he can doubt himself any further, Chailong tells him that he did better than expected. Kim Marie notices a faint floral scent filling the room, and soon everyone picks up on it too. The pleasant fragrance feels calming, so she asks why it smells like flowers. Chailong explains that Ku chose an aromatic type of wood that would naturally make the clothes smell nice. Kim Marie smiles, noticing how even the mandragora roots and Shisa seem to enjoy the scent. Nim blinks at the name Shisa, realizing he never actually heard it before. Chailong mentions that the name could always be changed if someone comes up with a better one. Nim immediately suggests calling calling it Snake Chick, while Kim Mari proposes Pak. Finally, Chailong turns to Ku for his opinion, and the bird confidently suggests naming it the Grand Footsteps in the Drawer. Curious, Chailong asks what Ku's real name is, and the phoenix replies that he was once called Rocky Mountain Horseshoe. Chailong stares blankly for a moment before giving up on the naming chaos entirely, and declares that the creature will remain Shisa, and no one bothers to object. Ku then asks what their next task will be. Chailong explains that he has been thinking about a concern that didn't bother him when he lived alone. He believes they should build a fence around the house to prevent intruders from getting close. Nim looks doubtful, saying he can't imagine anyone willingly approaching such a creepy place. Still, Chailong insists it is better to be cautious, since even S-rank monsters or hunters could appear without warning. Ku nods thoughtfully and suggests using a material filled with demonic energy. He mentions that the coastal region has a type of yellow quartz that is denser than black stone if they use that luminous stone as the base for the fence. He explains it will not only be strong, but will also glow softly at night, making their home look warm like a campsite. Kim Marie jumps with excitement the moment she hears they might be going to the beach, but Nim instantly loses his composure. The thought of the coastal region alone horrifies him, and before he can come up with an excuse, a sudden nosebleed saves him at the perfect moment. Acting weak, he puts on a faint damsel in distress act in front of Chailong and claims he needs to head to the human realm to drain his demonic energy. Chailong allows it, but tells him to look after the Mandragora roots in case they return late. Before leaving, Nim warns Chailong about the coastal region, saying even A-rank hunters and those below avoid the place since it would mean walking to their death. Chailong looks surprised, so Nim explains that the entire area is now ruled by 2 disaster-class monsters. These creatures were once chimera hunters created in a lab with faces like birds, but the bodies of humans. The thought of it makes even Chailong pause for a moment. Meanwhile, at the coastal region, a group of hunters is already on a mission to capture one of those same chimeras. One of them charges up a tracker shot and hurls it at the flying beast, landing a direct hit. Yet, the creature doesn't even flinch and keeps soaring ahead as if nothing happened.